We call New Super Lucky's Tale a playground platformer. And what that means to us is it's about play. Like, that's the core piece of that, is to get into this level, explore it fully, take your time. There's nothing really pushing you. We have challenge, and we have, like, the 2D levels are more technical, and we have foxholes that are more technical and skill-based, and it all is, but especially our big 3D playground levels. They're really about taking your time and digging in and talking to everybody, finding all the secrets. That is a true expression of, I think, what I love and a lot of what the team loves as well. And so we wanted to make that type of game with a very strong character and a very strong set of villains that you love to hate. We wanted it to be very approachable for a wide range of ages, from anyone like me who I'm looking at through the nostalgic lens. I'm like, oh, this feels like something that I've played before, but it is not slavishly like, no, it is old school to the very letter. It is full of modern conveniences, but it evokes that sense of wonder and awe, and it's a very nostalgic sense for me. But on the other hand, we also wanted it to just feel good and to look really fun for newer players who want to come in and play.
You know, this is a character that really we brought to life at the very beginning of the studio.
And being able to bring New Super Lucky's Tale to the world, this is the definitive edition. As you mentioned, we've had time to nurture every aspect of this game and refine the story and bring other characters in a stronger way into the story.
The character design, I think, is pretty classic and is immediately readable and is immediately kind of funny. You meet a lot of very diverse cast of really interesting characters with a lot to say. Each one in isolation just kind of stands on its own. So Meowmalade is a very distinct cat. Mittens is a very distinct cat. Lucky has his own family and his own lore around him, and they all stand on their own. So that's due in no small part to just the really, I think, inspired creation of our art team. They have put a lot of love into these characters to make them what they are now. Lucky has gone through a couple different iterations. Every time we do something new with him, we really look at the character itself. Lucky is informed by several different kind of principles about how we wanted to display him. So we want him to have a very classic design. We wanted him to be kind of warm and inviting and expressive. And he has updated from game to game. I even look at the old versions of him and think, wow, that was something that we loved at the time. And I think where he is now is my favorite. Like, he's really a blend of all the positive qualities that we discovered through the journey of creating him. He emotes well, I think he looks curious, he looks fun-loving, and those are the types of qualities that we want the game to kind of express. He went through a couple different iterations. The one that we laugh about now is on the VR version we call like Fursuit Lucky. It looks like a guy running around in a little suit. He's very humanoid, but kind of blocky in that way. But we were onto something, and I think that informed where we were headed. So we're like, oh, these are the proportions that work well, but here are the things that we want to improve on. And so every single time we put him in front of players, he's had another round of just intense iteration and updating. We even have a strange character that we played around with for a while, just as a temp placeholder, that had like 3 eyes and like strange overalls and tentacles on his head and stuff. And it was just a stand-in, but it's interesting to just watch that progress go, to where he is today. Yeah. New Super Lucky's Tale, he's, I think, looking the best he's ever looked.
This is kind of a personal mission for us, because I think that the audience out there, the folks who are aware of the previous Lucky games, are curious about how much is different or new or changed. And I can't wait for the stories that are going to come out around this game once it finally gets in the hands of the press, the reviewers, and the players, because it has been such a significant effort for us. And I've had these moments in my game development career before where it's like the team is not done. It's like they like what they put in the box, but they're like, oh, but just can we please keep going? And
once you crack it back open and you're like, okay, we're gonna do this thing, it was literally impossible to keep us and the team from wanting to add more. We're like, okay, there's an opportunity for more. Quickly, we're like, no, it's not a port. It is a full reimagining is what we ended up signing up for, because that's where the passion was. So we want this to be the definitive Lucky experience. And so we spent another basically year and a half, 2 years working on this game. It spoke to, I think, where Playful's heart is, in that they gave us the runway to do that and said, yes, you do it, and do the best job you can. So for us, it started with an opportunity, and then we shaped that opportunity into something that we thought our players would love, and that we thought that would connect with the Switch audience very strongly. So that's been our mission the last couple of years, is been, you know, refining that experience and making that as lovely as we can. We've been talking about this as a reimagining of Super Lucky's Tale. We've taken a ton of feedback from our players. Now it's pretty much almost everything about the game. So Lucky himself has completely gone through a process about updating his moves, his reaction times, the feel. He's peppier than ever before. He zips around faster. Like I said, he flows really well between states. He has a little tail hover. It's a subtle thing, but it's very nice because it helps you tactically place yourself exactly where you want, and combo and other things. He has the new slide, which is what he does when not burrowing on hard surfaces. It's again, in service of flow. For me, it's absolutely one of my favorites because I feel like it's just about, I can combo from an enemy, I can dive down, I can slide without losing my momentum, go down a ramp, keep going, combo out of that into another jump, double jump, tail swipe, etc. So the loop keeps going. It just opens up the amount of paths and the amount of ways to play, and I really like that about it, because otherwise I think if he was missing it, there would be a very straightforward approach to many different situations, and this really opens that up a lot, and I'm excited to even go further with that, you know, in the future. So he has been redone, which is, I think, important to just make him the best he can be, and that's our constant mission, is like, how can we make him control, be even more reactive, and to where you're always feeling like he's a good extension of your intent. But we didn't want to stop there, so we went through and we completely rewrote and updated the camera, a really lovingly crafted camera. We didn't have a lot of experience doing that before. I think it works really well right now. So it's something that complements him and his moveset really well, but also these beautiful worlds that we've spent additional time on as well. So we've gone through pretty much all the levels, we've updated those levels, we have some brand new levels, we have levels that are reimagined in terms of, oh, this level is about a rolling fruit. And so we liked that idea, but we really went kind of full on with that. So the encounters feel more tuned to that. There's more set pieces that really evoke a strong feeling of fantasy there. And we went through and completely redid the story and the progression. So there's basically no part of this game that hasn't been touched. At the very least, it's all been gone over and relit and re-arted and, you know, re-collisioned to make it nice and just really fun to run around on. We've rolled that into our costume system as well, and we've rebalanced the entire game. So there's a lot of fun stuff to explore and to earn through going above and beyond and getting more and more of the pages.
The story in New Super Lucky's Tale, which is not something that we've talked a lot about yet, is actually one of the most significant iterations or improvements that this game has. We're really passionate, Dan, myself, the creative folks on the team, about bringing to life this IP in a way that you don't traditionally see in platformers in terms of the storytelling, the characters you can interact with, their stories that they tell and that you experience through the journey of it.
Almost all the text, almost all the story beats, both the beginning, the end. We have multiple kind of different outros. We have a lot of interstitial beats there. Even the kitty litter themselves, we're even framing them differently. We're introducing them more cinematically to really build, and so players can get a sense of who they are and what their motivations are. So it was a lot of time and effort, but we believe we reached a really strong place with that. So when somebody picks up this game, not only is it fun to play, but it's also fun to go through that experience and to see the arc. I think it builds in the right ways to allow us to expand smartly. The digging mechanic was really fun for us, but it was, if you go back to, VR Lucky, it was not part of that character's kit. We discovered it as we were working on Super Lucky's Tale. The driving force behind that was we wanted something that made locomotion fun, even just if you're just running across, some stretch of land. We call it kind of awkwardly land dolphining when we were developing it, because we really wanted to have this feeling of a dolphin going in and out of the water. That's what it would feel like to Lucky. He's just plunging into the earth, and then he can pop out and then surprise an enemy or use that to kind of lead into other moves. He'll shatter some crates, he can knock an enemy out, he can he can do a lot there, but also, using it tactically. Let me get underneath these obstacles, let me investigate under this wall. And then the interplay between hard surface and soft surface became a very dominant thing in the series, where this is great. Yeah, this spike wall, you can burrow under it 9 times out of 10, except now it's on stone. So what are you gonna do? You have to come up with a different route around it. Every game is inspired by what came before it. For me, there's a nod in there already to something that's more unexpected, but when you stun an enemy and you run into it, Lucky has this really big boot and you will just kick it out of there. That to me was straight up Battletoads. Like that felt like, oh, this is that moment that I just really remember selling that strong image of just like boot and it's out of there. I don't know if you would catch it right away, but that's where that really came from. There's other things you could point to, but at the time I was really inspired by this piece, which was in Double Dragon 2, there was this train that would like come onto the screen and you had to kind of jump up awkwardly. Its jumping was never that great, but you had to kind of climb on the train to get to the exit of the level, and so enemies are all over it and stuff. I just really loved that moment of, wow, my level has changed. It feels more dynamic. It feels different than just me walking across rooftops. So we have a train level that's started off as just that feeling, but exploded into kind of its own thing. And so if you were to put them side by side, they're pretty different, but the inspiration really came from that place. We have there's a few Easter eggs in there. Some are more meaningful to us perhaps, but there are a few things that I don't know if anyone specifically called out. They're in there defined, and then we go even more just on the face. We're nodding to our favorites. So in the island level in Gilly Island, there's a nod to a specific Donkey Kong sequence that we really loved, but it's done through the lens of this world and the delight there. And so everyone who plays it is like, oh, I get it, it's Donkey Kong. It's really fun. And it's just a beat, but it's just something that the team and I really wanted to put in there because this is stuff that shaped us. This is how we grew to love this type of game. And so, yeah, it is steeped in the things that have come before it, but we believe it also puts forward a very unique flavor of level. I've never played anything quite like it, even though I've played a lot of platformers. And so I think it really stands on its own 2 feet as a brand new thing. We even had some early prototypes where Lucky had like a companion character. There's something I would still like to do there at some point. I think we got too complicated with it, but I think that there's a really cool opportunity for that. If we go into like a sequel or something from this title, then those are the types of things that I immediately look to, which is how do we, further refine the core of what we love about this, but really shake up other pieces of that make it feel fresh and invigorating. I would probably like it a little less if it just didn't add that much to the core experience, because then why am I spending time on it, right? I want our players to really experience something fundamentally new by the inclusion of that. So that's kind of the high bar that we set for things like that, or new moves or new characters or things. They kind of must add that breath of fresh air in terms of the way you experience and approach the game technically. If you play New Super Lucky's Tale, we've introduced a lot of pathways for the narrative as well. That was something that we're very passionate about, to really expand his world, even beyond what you see on screen, but where else can this go? So he has a family. Kitty litter are all connected in various ways to each other. There's characters that don't make an appearance here, but that are referenced, that are starting to kind of put out the blueprint for where we can go from here. Hey, here's some more content about these characters that are well received, that you really, you got to know, and now this is their story. That's something that's really exciting for us too, is like now we have many different ways to keep telling some facet of that. For us, when you talk about, hey, what other media are you looking at? It's things that help them be seen in their best light. So they're cartoonish, they're kind of timeless. So I think they could fit in a comic, or they could fit in a series, or they could fit in a lot of places and not feel shoehorned in, but really feel like, oh, this is great. This is a good extension of that. That's worth our time to read and to experience. I mean, I ate Mario/Zelda cereal when that came out, and I was maybe less discriminating as a kid, but I'm not saying that's what we're interested in, but there was a time where I was like, I don't care what it is, just put it around me.
I can picture a box of cereal with Lucky. He's eating the cereal, and all of the cereal shaped like the cats.
Well, that's horrific.
we weren't exactly sure how to make a business strategy out of that at the time, but we saw that energy and that passion the team had to keep going with the Lucky franchise, and we said, okay, let's just keep going. Let's take that and put it into the product and keep evolving it and improving it. And then we met with Nintendo after that.
We combined those superpowers with the energy that Nintendo brought to it. When they first laid their hands on the game, on the early builds of the game, they were so thrilled by it.
Yes.
And that just energized us even more.
And we felt that the Nintendo audience was such a perfect fit for a game like this, but we didn't know at the time how Nintendo was going to feel about that. And it has just been the most warm embrace by their team. They played it. They didn't know either, I think, but they sat down, they played the game, and they just kind of looked up and smiled at us basically, and it was like,
that was the best feeling.
Yeah, it was the best feeling because they know their audience and they know the quality that they expect of games, especially that they're going to kind of partner with the developer directly to bring something to market. And so having that embrace, it means a lot to us, and we are not going to let those fans down or Nintendo down.
This is a new game to us. It really is. And I think it's the perfect fit on the Switch, to be honest. I feel like this is the type of player that really wants to experience this type of game as much as we do, which was the whole reason we made it, was that we think that there is more life in the character platforming adventure game. I feel like the work and the love that's gone into this is purely in service of how delightful can we make it and how fun to control can it be. So everything has led up to this point, and I feel like this particular release, we stand by it as its own brand new game, basically. And I think that anyone who picks it up on the Switch will feel similarly like, wow, this is just so much fun. And that's where we're really tuning it. To us is just kind of all the factors have aligned, and it's created this really delightful product that we're excited to show.
One of my favorite experiences recently has been watching the audience of Nintendo fans connect with Lucky for the first time. This is a franchise we've been working on for a while, but for a lot of Switch players, it's a new thing. They've never seen it before, and they're coming into that IP with fresh eyes. It's a brand new thing. And I was reading through some of the comment threads on one of the videos we posted recently on Facebook, and there was this grandma that was tagging the grandpa and saying, "We got to buy this for our grandchild." And then the grandpa got back on the thread and he was like, "I showed it to Benny or whoever," and he was like, "Papa, I want Fox Game now," and it's like all he's doing is talking about Fox Game. Now he's like this 5 or 6 year old, and that experience is exactly what we're hoping and dreaming for. And when we see that happen, it's like that's the realization of success, almost independent of how many copies we sell or what have you. It's just seeing that the game can have that meaning, that impact, can be a 6-year-old who's maybe never experienced even the things that we experienced growing up, a Mario or a Spyro or a Sonic, and this is that for them. And seeing that happen, that's an incredible feeling.